What's going on, everybody? Wilson here, your spiritual hype man. I'm super happy that you are back on this episode. And I was feeling, let me tell you how I was feeling today. I don't know. There's a lot of emotions going on just because the little different situations going on between myself, my other half. End of the year, Christmas is coming, finances, things like that. If you haven't listened to the bankruptcy, Ghost of Bankruptcy Christmas, or whatever that episode title was, it's a good one. But I just want to go into it. So in this one, I want to talk about self doubt, and I think self doubt is just like a weird phenomenon, because it's in essence just a perspective or like a thought that we have about ourselves that we're not good enough, or look at or comparing ourselves to somebody else, and that and then looking and then thinking about, well, why not me, or I guess I am not good enough, or things like that. So the self doubt paradigm, which is it can be detrimental, right? I think to a certain extent, if you're not, I guess, conscious enough or aware enough to get yourself out of it. Again, like the prompts that we talk about, right? It's influence, thought, emotion, action, outcome. So if the influence or the thought is you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, then influence thought, what would be the emotion, right? The emotion is definitely not one of a high level, let's go crush this day and do the best that we can. It's more of like, you suck, and go lay down and just fucking whittle away, right? So I don't want to say I lived in that today. I want to say that there was a hint of that today for a second. And for a second, I mean a couple minutes. And usually when that happens, like I'm like a couple years ago, there's been times, or even less than a year ago or something like that, there's been times, and actually, yeah, the reason I started the podcast, there was a whole week that I felt really fucking down and depressed and not good enough, and had this self-doubt of just like, what is life, and what am I doing here, and the fuck, like, what is going on? And so a little bit of that resurfaced today, and I think same thing, I was kind of like on the couch taking a break and going through some social, and then same thing, it's just kind of like comparing yourself. Like there was a post that somebody posted, who also is in a similar field, in terms of the production side, right? And it was a post, and people were celebrating like the milestone, et cetera, et cetera. And I, again, the whole sense of comparing yourself. And again, I think there's a line, and I think there's a one side and then another side to things. Like when you compare yourself to somebody that is either better than you, and again, it's like, how are they better than you? They may not be better than you in all these different factors, but what you're seeing, right, what the visual or what the media is showing you, like in terms of your social media feed, you compare yourself, and you may think that this person in this arena is definitely doing better. Look at all these accolades. Look at the car. Look at the house. Like, okay, maybe in that sense they are doing better than you, and you're working on towards that. And obviously, that if that's what you're focusing on, then yeah, there's going to be that self doubt that starts creeping in. Like, well, am I good enough? Am I good enough as this person? Can I do as good of a job, or can I be as successful, or can I be fill in the blank? What means the most to you. However, I feel like on the other side of that, there's a couple things, right? On the other side of that, the individual can be doing great in this one sector, but you can't really see the full picture, right? You don't really see or hear, of all the trials and tribulations. Again, it's another good episode if you haven't heard of that one. The trials and tribulations that we all can't get away from, right? That they're going through. Because, like, what if there was a platform, and maybe this is the platform of NCUID, if nothing changes until you do, is actually sharing these times that we fucking feel like shit, or the times that self-doubt creeps in. Because not everyone, no matter what tax bracket you're in, and I've said this before, the emotional side of the interconnection of human beings is all very much the same. If you're having a bad day, or if you have self-doubt, even if you're making billions of dollars or not, there's got to be something, or there's just certain situations that you don't feel so hot, or you may be comparing yourself to the other billionaire or the other millionaire that has XYZ. So there's always this revolving cycle again, and things come in cycles, and of how do I, if I'm starting to compare myself or I'm starting to creep in terms of self disbelief, how do we get around that? How do we prompt ourselves to start thinking on things to get us back in the right trajectory? So much so that when I, like, literally right before I started the podcast, I was somewhat feeling this, and then I worked through it, and then I shared with Patty, and then I was like, all right, let's get our fucking games going. We got an hour. We're going to go crush. And then after that, you and I, we're going to go take a ride. I got to take some pictures for a client, and after that, we're going to come back. And, she's going to get a bottle of white wine, and we're going to relax, and we're going to take some time for ourselves. The holidays are coming. And so, like, it went from self-doubt, self-disbelief, to turning into a positive of, let's get our shit together, let's get activated, let's get motivated, and let's go do what we got to do so you and I can enjoy some quality time together. And so, the way I approached it is this: like, the more that I see it and the more that I'm aware of it, I can identify these moments, the more I'm now more conscious, or I'm flexing my ability to just think about, all right, how do I get myself out of this? How do I prompt myself out of this feeling? And so the way I did, I was like, you know what? I said, listen, when I saw the image, and I was like, one, good for that person. I'm happy that that individual is doing successful. Two, understanding that our journeys are two different journeys. Like, yeah, we may be doing the same sort of medium for paying bills when we produce and do commercials and things like that, and that's fine. But that doesn't mean that our paths are equally aligned. And just because the one person is doing XYZ and they got X amount of likes on this, doesn't mean that that's my path. It doesn't mean that my path, like my entire path, I should be comparing to that one image, and then letting that one visual or that one thought in my head then spiral me out of control to fuck up my rest of my day, and to think that I'm not good enough to do what I'm doing, because I am good enough to do what I'm doing. Right? We all are. Like, we all have the right to party. We all have the right to do amazing things. And so if you can identify these moments, right, these days, like days for me, like there was a moment that it was like two or 3 weeks for me where I was feeling like that. And I was like, wow, I've never felt like this before. And again, I mentioned this in the first episode, so definitely check that one out. And then days, those weeks turn into days where, like, it's a whole day. And it was a whole day where I was like, I just can't do anything. Like, I just need to sit here and wallow in my fucking pity and sorrow, because, like, things should be better for me. And of course, and that's why I agree. I think things should be better for everybody. Like, it's insane if you look at the crazy macro level of things, of how there are certain things that are not equal for people, even though they're human beings, is another conversation, which is fucking crazy if you think about it. Like, it's just, there's certain things that we don't know about things that we don't know that people are suffering based on whatever the fuck the case is, that if you were a human being and we're like logical about reasoning, it just wouldn't make sense, right? It just wouldn't make sense that this stuff's happening. And so going back to just the thought of self-doubt and self-belief, it's like, listen, you the comparison fact, like, you go ahead and compare yourself, and if you feel a certain way, if you feel like you're not good enough, then make that the feeling that pushes you forward and not backward, right? And not in this downward spiral. And then also, I would say, prompt yourself, so it's comparing yourself and understanding that, like, okay, whatever I'm feeling here, I don't want to feel, so let's move forward, let's do something about it. Two, the thing that you may be comparing yourself with, or even, thinking that you're not good enough because this person's doing this, or this person's getting accolades, or whatever, like, whatever that is in terms of your situation, understand that, like, what you're seeing, in terms of the mediums, whether it's social media or what you're seeing in public, like, that's only a fraction of the entire self, of the entire us, and the entire situation of who I am and how I'm feeling. So my trajectory or my journey is totally different from someone else that may be doing a similar thing, like, I don't know, racing motorcycles. Shout out to my homie Jeremy, who does that stuff. But that's that's the idea, right? That's the thought, or those. That's the lesson, or the education, or the aha moment, or the point of perspective. That, like, if you are feeling this way, like, two things. One, understand that we're really focusing on the small thing out of this big thing. Two, your journeys and your life paths are two totally different things, even if you might be doing something similar. And three, like, that person may have some other fucked up shit that's worse than yours, you know, if you have to think of it that way, and then move on, and then move on to the next thing. So I've lived it. I think we've all lived at some point with self-doubt, that whole whatever they call that fucking syndrome, when you think you're not good enough to be able to do what you're doing or start what you're doing, and imposter syndrome. It's like, who the fuck? The only people that are imposters are people that are imposters. Like, if you truly believe that, or if you're truly doing what you're doing, then how can you be an imposter even if you're starting? You're just starting, right? So that was today. That was the feeling, and I just wanted to hop on and share that with you. And I hope, if whether you're feeling this way or you have felt this way, again, the reflection part is such an important part to the mental awareness of things, to the ability to get to that level where you can feel it, and then you can go through it, you can see it, and then prompt yourself out of feeling that way and into something positive. So I thank you for listening. I thank you for connecting, because this, for me, is one of the things that brings me the ability to in those moments, to think about, look at what you're doing. Like, for me, my own personal self-worth, my own personal self-evaluation, that I am good enough, because I know I am, and so are you. All right, homies. So keep that in mind. Keep crushing it. I hope all is well. And remember, it's just thoughts in our head. We can change them, turn them off, change them by asking ourselves different questions, going doing something physical, calling a loved one, something. Do something different. Break the pattern. Break the pattern. Go do it. Go crush it. And I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Thanks. And don't forget, nothing changes until you do. Peace.